What's up, YouTube? I'm doing a follow-up episode to this just in. I'm going to cover the Tesla valuation in a little more detail. Again, I don't know if you guys like this stuff, but these are things I'm kind of interested in. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I'm interested in. We all kind of only talk about bodybuilding if you're in the sport, but there's a number of things I'm interested in, and I figured this could be my place to goof around with it, and maybe hopefully some people like it. Uh, I wasn't zoomed in enough, it looks like, for the valuation stuff last time for the spreadsheet. So I've tried to fix that a little bit, and I went back and redid some of the Tesla stuff. So you can see here, you don't need to see me, I guess. Redid some of the Tesla stuff with the actual numbers from 2021 because I hadn't done this since 2000. And I put the data up on a shared drive, a public drive, Google Drive, and I have the link. I doubt it shows as a link. You probably have to copy and paste it. I can probably figure that out. But for this and for the property valuation calculator, for this, I protected all the sheets so that you can't change them. I just didn't want someone messing with it because I might go back and just reference it, and I didn't want the things to be wrong. But the property valuation I left open. It's already protected for the cells that you can't change. So you can download it, play with it, and use it to value your own properties. But we'll start here with the new updated Tesla numbers. And I actually took the delivery numbers for 2021. See if I still have them. I don't. Dang it. With Tesla, when they give their final numbers, they give them in terms of total numbers for S and X and 3 and Y. So when I did this, I had them completely separate because their prices are separate. But you see the S and X are pretty close, and then here the average Y and 3 are pretty close. So I just took the total number they gave and basically split it, or roughly split it in half for each. And you can see the new base case, which is really what we're in because we haven't done anything with full self-driving or anything of value yet, really. This actually ended up being quite a bit more accurate. I think we were, what did we say, it was 355 at the end of 2021, which before the price split anyway, the stock split. Anyway, so you can see it was pretty darn close. So we are really close at the end of 2020, really close to the end of 2021. And the model here, which, it's not, like when analysts give a rating, they consider, social sentiment, and all those things matter, especially with something like Tesla. But I don't know how to gauge that, or, I just know there's hard numbers. If Tesla's selling, they sold this many vehicles, or they made this many deliveries last year, and I know the cost, I know how much each model costs, how many they delivered, and I can get data from them. They're a public company, so all this data is available. You can get data on what their margins are, what their projected sales growth, and yada yada, and you can get really darn close with the numbers. And this was, I think, their total revenue for the year was, I think, 54 billion, and I estimated 53 billion, which would correspond. The price. That corresponds to the market cap. Oh well, that doesn't directly correspond to the price, but really over time, it in an efficient market, it should. As stocks that increase in value or increase their earnings should increase in value. They're not going to over a week or 3 months or 6 months, but over 6 years they will. And that's the hardest thing about investing is, you saw Tesla was $1,200, in 2020, I think it still hit there, and then dropped down to half that. And so it's not efficient, and it doesn't correspond to these numbers at all times. It's kind of like body weight with fat loss. We weigh ourselves to try to gauge fat loss, but most of our body is water. Losing 2 pounds of fat requires a 7,000 calorie deficit total for the week. Losing 2 pounds of weight means just not drinking a glass of water. So your weight's going to go up and down. Your weight's going to go up and down while your body fat is trending steadily downward. And that's really the hardest thing with fat loss, especially people who live by the scale, but it's also what gets people in trouble with stocks. You need to do your actual valuations by the numbers you're given. The publicly traded company, all this stuff, the percent gross. And now these are my numbers, but you can kind of get an estimate based on what, their growth has been, what the analysts project their growth, what the company projects the growth to be. And so, yeah, so I guess we'll just go through. It's probably boring as hell, but we'll go through 2021 with the actual numbers. You take those actual numbers, and then you can see what values we're looking at. So we're looking at D3, which is the Model S, C20, which is the average price of it, and then we divide by that big number because we want it in terms of millions, because that's just how they always do it with big companies like that. You do that for each of those, you get the total, their total sales, basically, and then from that, I had merchandise. That's funny. Well, no, they probably do make that much in merchandise. Food and restaurant. Yeah, these are the two things I'm kind of intrigued by, because they filed a patent for some type of restaurant system or fun area for their supercharging networks. And then of course the safety score, if anyone has a Tesla, they do the safety score to track your insurance. And so they're going to have the data they're going to have on their drivers, whether or not you like that, and not everyone likes them having that data, but they will be able to give you the most precise insurance sales number. And so as far as I'm concerned, they're effectively going to be the only way you're going to want to insure yourself through their vehicles at some point when this is perfected. It's going to give you the best value, and so they're going to corner that market. And then the food and restaurant market, you're going to charge your Tesla. And this is if you don't have a Tesla, or well, what's funny is I always made fun of EVs. I feel stupid now. I mean, I still do a little bit, I guess. I feel stupid. I still make fun of them a little bit because, no one wanted an EV. I don't want to charge for 30 minutes every time I drive my car or if I have to get gas. And you think that's going to be like the big issue, but it's not. It's the exact opposite. And I do have a Tesla. I bought one last year. Bought a Model S Plaid. It's like a spaceship. I love it. As far as my experience, my build quality is great. I have and it's not to brag or anything, but I have a Lotus Evora 400 that's handmade, and the Tesla build quality holds up 100% to it. I know not everyone has that same experience, and you go online and you can find a lot of people with loose panels or door spacings, or I have none of that. Like if I take my Lotus through a car wash, water will leak in through the window seals a little bit. The Tesla, not at all. And Tesla has a car wash mode actually where you can doubly seal everything down. And then as far as like driving, the speed is outrageous. 1.9 seconds 0 to 60. It's the fastest production model ever made of any car. It's unbelievably fast. It doesn't feel real, and there's no you don't have to build revs or anything. So it's that torque curve is flat, full on power from get go. No transmission or anything. It's just unbelievable. And the fueling is a complete non-issue. I have a charger in my garage, and so I never think about it. I just, I don't plug it in every day because you're not supposed to keep it, the battery maxed out, just like you're not supposed to with your phone or anything. But basically anytime I get in my car, I have 300 plus miles before I have to worry about getting fuel or, a charge. That's 6 hours of driving. I don't routinely leave the house in the morning and drive for 6 hours without coming back to my garage. I mean, I never do that. So the only times it comes into play is like on a road trip, which, isn't the most enjoyable thing, but I don't take a lot of road trips. And even then, it's not that dramatic of a difference. We drove down to Nashville this summer, which took us almost 9.5 hours. And it took the people in gas cars a little over 9 hours. So over a 9-hour trip, our total charge time was about 20 minutes more than their total, their time with gas. It took us 20 minutes longer. And then, if we really wanted to, the Tesla could haul ass at 200 miles an hour the whole way. But for that extra 20 minutes, the Tesla drove me. I didn't have full self-driving, but I used autopilot. And autopilot when you're on the highway the whole time, it drives you. You have to touch the wheel every once in a while to make sure it knows you're still there. and it's really not that enjoyable, but it's much more relaxing because you can really just kind of chill, and it'll switch lanes for you. It'll change speeds to the so you don't like the adaptive cruise controller that every car has. Stays in the lane. It'll know when your exit is and alert you. So it'll take the exit, so you don't even have to pay attention to that. And I mean, I'm not trying to sell people on Tesla. People, totally understand a lot of people aren't going to like EVs. I didn't for a while, and as someone who's a car fan, I have, I have an old diesel truck that I had an old diesel truck, a 2001 F 250 7.3 liter, that I finally sold with about 300,000 miles on it. My wife more or less made me sell it. But you get so used to having a truck. Well, as soon as we didn't have one, especially with the properties, you need a work truck. I went out and bought a 2008 6.4 liter F 250. So and way back before that, I had a 6.5 liter, the shit Chevy that I had a great experience with that too. That was one of the best vehicles I ever owned. I drove that for 250,000 miles with no problems at all. Never had issues with the heat sink, never anything, but that's in the past. But I mean, the Tesla's it's just so convenient. You get in the car. If I had to pick the kids up from school, I get in the car. I don't think about gas. I never think about it. I don't go on road trips. And this is, this only has 4 seats, and we have 4 kids, so we can't take the whole family on a road trip. We take my wife's MKT with third row seating if we have to go. Although she just purchased a Model Y that has third row seating. It'll come later in the year because she drives a ton with carting the kids around. We have kids in 3 different schools in different parts of the city. And then, gymnastics and volleyball and soccer and track and cross country. And the fact that we live out in the boonies, we live 30 minutes from where they go to school. Where 3 of the 4 kids go to school. The 4th one goes to one closer, but it's in the opposite direction. So we just have to do a ton of driving. And so she's going to save so much money with the Tesla. You really save money as far as you don't know. Our electricity bill is unchanged. The natural variation in our electricity bill is more than what I charge the Tesla for. So we notice 0 increase. I just don't ever spend money on gas anymore, except in the winter because I drive the truck in the winter. But more stuff you guys didn't care about. So let's get back to these numbers. Why it's important to do this, because then you understand the company. You understand why, what their revenue growth is. You understand what you can expect it to be, what their sales growth. These are actual numbers, and like you can't do this for 1,000 companies, but you only need 4 or 5 great calls a decade to do very well in the stock market, and you're not going to do well consistently, with meme stocks or. People want to get, you're not going to beat the S&P 500. You might here and there, but if you can find one stock that doubles the S&P 500 and that's all you find, that sets you up for retirement. You need to have your 401k. You need to do all the things you basic do. And I always recommend at least half your money in your own, if you have a margin account that you do your own investing in. I always recommend it. Put at least half your money in the main indexes. I use the SPY for the S&P 500, and then I actually use QQQM, which is the triple Q without financials, because I don't like financials. They never make sense to me. Trying to figure out bank stocks, it's magic. I swear they just make stuff up. I mean, I'm sure they do. So I like the Qs without the financials. Those are my base. And then for me, Tesla's my biggest holding, my biggest single stock holding by far. And it's, when I started before the previous stock split, I was nervous because I didn't really believe in the company and I thought, it's overvalued. And then at some point around the first stock split, I started doing this. It must have been after the stock split because I have the second stock split numbers. And it started making, more sense to me. And I ride the low, I ride the dips, or I buy the dips. And I kind of have a much better feel for the company. But again, those are the numbers. And so we had really about 54 billion total revenue, and so I'm really underestimating with these values. But you can see so far it's been pretty spot on. We were right around $700 at the end of 2021. We were like 1,064 at the end of 2021. What's that number in post split? No, stupid Bluetooth. Oops. So about 400. Yeah, I mean it's dipped now. I think it's around 290 since yesterday. Well, the CPI data came in, and inflation's still increasing, and so the market tanked today. I think the S&P 500 was down 4%, and Nasdaq was down like 5%. Tesla held decently, but it's down. So it's still got to go up about $100 a share over the last 3 months of the year. But again, this would be like a generalized average over the end of the year time period. And again, you can see this is when the growth really doesn't come in my model until about 2025, and that's because of the dates I picked. I don't think the Roadster's gonna be 20. I need to change that. Yeah, I did change it up here. We'll do that later. I have the semi possibly coming out by the end of 2023. I think it seems to be close. I don't know that it is. The Cybertruck, I've moved it to the end of 2023, which is what they're saying. Whether or not that ever happens, it's a very small calculation. And the Roadster, I don't think they're going to do it now, but maybe as a fun thing, I have a real limited release that really doesn't affect the numbers at all. And then growth of each of the models. This is my global EV, and these numbers came from I think I looked what the estimated global light vehicle count was in 2020, and then I say each year we're going to produce the number of vehicles they produce, and then 85% we'll lose 15% of the vehicles every year. It's kind of, and I think I just made those numbers up. I don't know that I found those anywhere, but it seems logical. 15% of the vehicles every year will leave the road while they add new vehicles, and that's where I got my global vehicles. And what's that important for is because of the full self-driving licensing, which I'm underestimated here, which I thought we had 500,000. For now, it's only for Tesla. Only about 100,000 people actually have access to it, but I think closer to 500,000 people have purchased it. Either the full, pay $10,000 to have it, or you pay for the monthly subscription, which both of those methods suck if you don't have the full self-driving yet, where they only give out to really good safety scores, and most people don't drive very safe. But then you can see I say by the end of 2025, so really 2026, what did I put for that? 1% of global light vehicles will license full self-driving from Tesla. And I think that's going to happen. I think that's I might be early on this because, that's 3 years from now. I feel like they'll have a full self-driving, because Dojo comes out, I think at the end of this year. I think they'll announce more about it on AI Day this month. But once that comes out, they can process 10 to the 18 processes per second. And so the edge cases that they'll be able to do in their simulator, I think, is really going to accelerate the neural network learning to the point where the rare edge cases will have solutions for the full self-driving software. And I think that's brilliant what they did. I think that what they did by dropping radar and lidar is brilliant. And I'll tell you why. Well, first of all, radar is not very accurate. I mean, it gives you really good information for what it gives, but radio waves are, can you see that? Long waves. So if, you could think, it's an easier way to think of this would be on the ocean. The waves, how many waves there are across a thing tells you how long the thing is. And so if I have a boat and there's a ton of waves, and I can say there's 73 waves, the boat is 73 waves long. Well, you know that pretty accuracy because that's for whatever size the boat is. If it's 20 feet, 73 waves, it gets you pretty darn close. Now, if the waves were larger and you only had 8 waves, the difference between 8 and 9 waves is a pretty big difference. You don't have a real clear picture of the boat. Well, radio waves are very long, so you can't tell really much precision. You tell something's there because the radio wave will hit it and bounce back, but you can't tell really anything about the precision for it. LiDAR you can. LiDAR is much more precise. The problem is it's expensive, and and that everyone kind of thought that's what you had to do, and it may play out. I don't think it will. It may play out that you need to do that, but I think what Tesla did is really ingenious in that they've taken the fact that there's basically been 20 plus years of 3D physics engines that model the real world, and which is what, the car has to drive through what essentially, I mean, it drives through the world, which includes radio waves. We just don't see those things, but it includes all those things. But the way the cars have been designed and the way the roads have been designed and the way everything is around driving has been designed is based on how we view the world, which is visual light, which is a real small spectrum. But the beauty is that the gaming community has all that physics engine data that they can then exploit through their dojo, and then the incredible processing power of the new chip, which I'm excited about. Anyways, so I think what's going to happen then is when full self driving. I think full self driving is going to suck at first because it follows the rules, and it has to. It doesn't want to. They try, but people complain about it, and it has to be 50 times safer than a human. If any death caused by full self driving, even though there's thousands of deaths every single day on automobiles by humans driving, even if the full self driving prevents 90% of those, everyone it doesn't prevent is going to be massive headlines. So it has to follow all the rules. So you're going to you do a 3-second stop at a stoplight or stop sign. It's going to do things like that. That's actually going to make driving frustrating because we kind of skip those things. We roll stop signs. We we violate a no passing lane if like a male car is kind of parked to the side. We don't have to go all the way over. Little things like that it can learn and it can do, but it'll have to have some limitations against that because the people just it's going to be an uproar anytime anything happens. But anyways, I think that will be huge. I think people will be licensing that. I think all vehicles will, and they don't have to license from Tesla. I just think right now Tesla is the furthest ahead. The number of miles they collect and have been collecting is they collect, the nearest competitor I think is Waymo, and Waymo, I believe, I can't remember the numbers they collect, but Tesla collects has 1,000 times more data than that, which means there's only 365 days in a year. So basically Tesla collects as much per day as Waymo does every 2.5 years. And so there's, it's not like people say, like Jim or Ford will come along and just throw money at the problem. And it's not a money thing. And at this point now, they don't have that much more money than Tesla. I mean, Tesla is really incredibly cash flow positive now. They're minimal debt. Their bond ratings should be, Moody, it should be investment grade. It's not quite, but it seems silly that it shouldn't because they have like no debt and a ton of excess cash. But it's not something you can throw money at. Neural networks aren't a money thing. It's a time thing. It's like the auto labeling that Tesla came up with, the data collection, the edge cases. A computer, the neural network is learning, and so it doesn't really. Computers don't do well at figuring things out. They do well at knowing things and repeating them. And so you have to have data on all these edge cases. A straight road is easy. What do you do when, what do you do when a road's recently been paved and it doesn't have a center line and you can't tell if it did, whether it would be a passing zone or a non-passing zone? What do you do when a basketball bounces in front of the road? What do you do, like they showed in the last AI day? What do you do when a moose crosses the road? There's things that, just you have to be, the computer has to have seen and learned how to handle or how a human handled all of those cases. And that's really going to accelerate when they get, like I said, Dojo going, and they can, I think, I could be wrong. Maybe, maybe what that ends up being capable of is nothing like I'm thinking, but I think that's really going to accelerate that. And I don't think anyone else is going to beat them. And you're going to get, this is where it really starts to take off when other vehicles that are non-Teslas, subscribe to that. And you think, I'm not letting someone drive my, I'm not letting some computer drive my car. And that's fine. A lot of people resist it, just like people resisted, cruise control or automatic transmissions or calculators or computers or any new technology. It's just our human nature of, to not like a new technology because we like what we've been using. But if you're a taxi driver, if you're someone who drives a lot of miles, and then certainly the semis, where that's such a regulated industry, when that can be automated and completely standardized, I don't see any way that that's not that every semi doesn't have every, maybe not, private truckers or, hot shotters, they're not going to have it, but every, like all your fleets are going to have that. Any way they can standardize it and regulate it and automate it, they're going to want to do that because every penny counts for, for the shipping industry. And so I just keep kind of going back over it, but those are my values. And I have around $1,200 a share, or because it's been stock split, I have around $400 a share as my estimation at the end of the year. We're around 300 right now. We may not get there by the end of the year, but I don't see, with the way things are going with their estimates on 500,000 Q4 deliveries, where just for Q4 deliveries, where I think I have barely a million for the whole year as my estimate. Yeah. By the end of 22, a little over 1 million. I think they did 355 and was it like 270, 280? It's just something like 285. I can't remember what they did in Q2. So they're well, I don't know if they're that high, but they're somewhere around there already at the first two quarters, and those are the lowest production quarters. Q3 and Q4 are going to be the highest. I think there's a possibility they get to 1,500 or 1.5 million total deliveries, which doesn't necessarily mean the price will reflect that immediately, but it will long term. And so I don't know if one thing I like to do actually in a stock that I really, really believe in to save money is I will buy deep in the money calls for way in the future, June of 2023 or January 2024, while the stock is at like a local minimum, while the price is down currently locally. Like Tesla's around 290 right now. So I believe you can find, let's say like June of 2023, you could get like a $250 call for probably $8,000, which sounds like a lot, but that gives you the right to basically you pay that premium for the right to profit on it as if you had 100 shares. And then if the stock does go up, which I believe it will, it'll be far above 250 in June of 2023. If you do have the money, then you can exercise that, and then you exercise the shares for the price of the option, which would be $250 per share, or $25,000 to exercise 100 shares. The other benefit for that is it helps you mentally ride out the ups and downs, because you buy it deep in the money, which is way below the current price. What your brokerage is going to show is that your average share price was what you paid by exercising. They won't count the premium you paid to buy that option, even though you spent that. It doesn't look like you did. So when you exercise it, you're going to have, if the stock's $350,000 or $350 a share, when you exercise it, you're going to have $10,000 of profit. It's going to appear, and that lets you like not panic if it goes down a bunch. You don't feel like you're in the red anymore. I mean, whether you are or not, it's stock investing is such a mental thing, and that's a little bit harder because options, if they don't print, you lose all the option premium. But that's why you stick to companies that you really believe in long term and buy the deep in the money call options for the far future. When the stock is at a low point, the RSI is below 30, you're below the volume weighted moving average, you're below the 200-day moving average. All things that kind of show that, provided the company isn't a bad company, if you are correct in that it's a good long-term company, when it hits all those indicators, you have very high probability that by buying deep in the money call 18 months in the future, it's going to be green by then. And that's it's a way to get a really sizable amount of shares when you exercise them in a case that's going to be less stressful, because it can go down quite a bit before you feel like you've lost money. And you never lose money until you sell, but that's losing when you see it go red. That sure makes you want to sell. And so that's about 30 minutes. I don't know that I explained this very well. I don't know. I started updating the bull case also with the new data. Jeez, what is it? My mouse. I started updating the bull case, which and so you can see about the same price 2021, about the same price 2022, and that's because I don't don't think, because full self-driving is basically what makes or breaks my bull case. If full self-driving is, and I believe it's going to happen at some point. I just don't, I don't know that it'll be Tesla. I believe it'll be Tesla, and it seems most probable that it will be, but I don't know how long it'll take to get fully through regulations. It's going to be safer. Computers are always better at doing things once they know how to do them. It's going to be much, much safer than a human, but it's going to be hard to get over that mental issue of, any death during a full self-driving ran vehicle is going to seem like a big deal, even if it saved thousands of deaths before it got to that point. And it's going to be hard to get through with social sentiment. But anyways, I have, by the end of 2024, and they were saying by 2019 they were going to have it, but Elon Musk always is pretty absurd with his dates. But I think possibly we're going to start seeing it at the end of 2023, and this is where my bull case really takes off. And these are not, these numbers seem outrageous. $13,000 a share, or, that's before the most recent split. $4,000 a share. That seems outrageous. And when you just look at it that way, for an automobile company, that seems absurd. But, if these are if you would have said 5 years ago, $700 a share was absurd, before the split, and it hit that number, you would have said $1,000 a share was absurd, and it was above that number at the end of 2021. You would have said, $1,100, $1,200 a share is absurd, and it's probably going to break that number here. And so there's only so many times you can say it's absurd before you say, well, it's, it can't be, there's no absurdity in the actual numbers. You take the numbers they sold, the margins they had, the revenue they had, and the profits they had, and that's what these are. It's no longer absurd. It's the truth, And you could say, like, the PE, so like the earnings per share, where is it? Yeah, you can see the earnings per share climb up, and then, wait, that's not right. Trailing PE should be dollars. But like the PE in 2019, the trailing PE was like 12,000. The trailing PE at the end of 21 was like 200. Right now, nearing the end of 2022, it's under 100, which is still, that means, if it's trading at 90 times earnings, which is kind of still ridiculous, but it's coming down pretty quickly. And the price it's at right now, if you put it with forward earnings, it's only like 18 PE or something ridiculous. If you put it to the end, put it to like the forward 12 months expected earnings. And so I need to fix this though. But yeah, so you see, even with this insane, these shouldn't be dollars. I need to fix that. But even with this insane price, $13,000 a share, when at the time it's under 1,000, it's like 900 pre-stock split. That seems ridiculous, but that's a PE, a forward PE under 20, a trailing PE of 25. That's less than Google right now. That's less than Coca-Cola right now. Berkshire Hathaway is 59 right now. That's less than Amazon right now. That's similar to that time frame of an Amazon or a Google, Microsoft. Microsoft's a much, much older company, and their PE is still in that range, I think 28 or 30 or something. It might even be higher now. So that's not, that's a very, a 19 PE. That's like the S&P 500 average. I think we're at 18.5 right now, and that's a little lower. I think 19 is the historical average. So to me, that's what makes it not outrageous. A forward PE of 19 with that number, and that's all taken from the most recent known data. With my only estimates are estimates on growth, which are taken basically. And so I was way under. My previous year-over-year rev growth was estimated to be like 55 or 50 when they actually beat that when I put the actual numbers in. And I'll put the actual numbers each year. I'll try to, but I don't have like an insane growth rate. Their revenue growth is really, it's not absurd to say that it's expected to be 50% a year for the foreseeable future. So these numbers, even with this bull case, are, that's a big one. That's when I think Tesla comes in there or something like that. But these are far below what their revenue growth has been every year. The revenue growth has been in that range. And so I always see, people give like Tesla, people think Tesla's overvalued or ridiculously overvalued. And you could still argue that. I mean, for a car company, it sure as hell seems like it is. But these are the numbers. These are the numbers, these based on their sales and their revenue, and the fact that currently the PE is high, but it's dropping very quickly to, even in my bull case, it's pretty darn low. It's right around the S&P 500 average by 2030. And so I don't know. We'll see in the comments if people like these. I like this stuff. It's probably boring and looking at numbers on a screen when you're trying to listen to something. It doesn't really bode well to like listening to this in traffic. But if you have any other any topics you'd like to uh, discuss, these price models are really interesting because I did one for NVIDIA. I bailed on it because NVIDIA at the time was I don't know, 330 a share or something, and I was showing that it was going to be around 195 a share at the end of this year. And so this was 2021. It was already 330 a share, and my price model was showing 195 for the share per share at the end of 2022, over a year in the future, and it was already 330. So I thought I got to bail on this. This doesn't make any sense. Well, lo and behold, Nvidia's under 140 right now, and so like that's why like numbers work. If I would have just trusted the data I was looking at, which is the publicly traded company, so this is data you can get from them, I would have understood Nvidia's decline. There's social things that come and play with it. Obviously, like the fact that they can't sell chips in certain areas, the chip shortage, that you couldn't know. Those weren't like hard data numbers, but there was information you could glean off their sales calls and their website and their investor relations that would lead you to believe that this stock was even more dramatically overvalued than it appeared to be. And like I said, mine said 195 at the end of this year, but mine had no idea there was going to be like the chip shortages or the issues with where they can sell chips, and that those issues dropped it even further, another 60 points per share. And I have one for a company called Vodafone, which is an interesting company that's like been down forever, and they have like they're a good company, and I just feel like it's like a Warren Buffett company. They're very undervalued. I think they're probably worth somewhere around $25 to $28 a share, and I think they're trading at like 12 right now. And they've been on a slow decline from 28 for the last 5 years, despite doing well as a company, despite having minimal debt, despite paying a hefty dividend, and having a pretty decent moat, at least in Europe. But I don't even remember how far I got on that valuation. But maybe I'll do more if there's any interest. If not, I'll go back to talking about meathead stuff. Thanks. Oh, and remember to like, share, subscribe, turn on notifications, or any of that other stuff. Thanks.